Hi everyone, I'm Audrey Aubin and welcome back to Two Realtors, One Mic, your real estate podcast for everything real estate related in the Hearst and Kapuskasing area.
And I'm Remi, real estate agent with Remax Crown. And I'm Remi with Remax Crown in the Kapuskasing area.
So you might notice something a little bit different about today's podcast. We're in Remi's kitchen and there's a video to document our podcast. So this kind of wraps around to our last episode where we were mentioning we're going to bring it up a notch. And that's all thanks to the amazing guy behind the camera and the mic, Julien Boucher.
Thanks for joining us, Julien. Very much appreciated. Yeah, so like we had mentioned in the last podcast, we had communications with Julien, how to step it up. And I wouldn't say just a notch, like many notches. So it's very fun. Like we're sitting here this morning, Julien's bringing everything in, putting in the lights. I thought we were going to sit at the dining table. I don't know why, but now we're sitting more at the kitchen area. And, you know, I made sure that my girlfriend nicely shaved my head. You know, I did the beard this morning, try to, me pouponner un peu to be on camera. So this is very exciting for us there that we have somebody of Julien's expertise to help us bring the podcast to the next level. So thanks for that, Julien.
The quality is definitely going to be better than my Amazon mic and then my very debutante skills at editing a podcast.
Yeah.
No, we're really lucky to have Julien here. So I think we can hop onto our regular scheduled programming now.
Yeah. And obviously, as we go along, we are going to talk about real estate. But one thing I did want to mention is the Stanley Cup Final just happened. It was amazing to watch. And I just kind of wanted to touch base a little bit on that. I'm a big hockey fan. Audrey was actually at my house for Game 6 on Friday night. So we just first of all, want to go through that since we're big hockey people. Talk about, the ups and downs and, sadly, the team that we were rooting for, which I'm sure all Canada was rooting for, ended up not winning, but obviously ended up giving a great performance. So, from the start where, the first 3 games, the Panthers took the 3-0 lead, even though I would say game 1, Oilers had the better game. Just Bobrovsky was the better player that ended up taking the top for the Panthers, being down 3-0. And then for the Oilers to come back all the way to Game 7 was phenomenal to watch. And the other thing with that too is like on Friday night, we were all in my attached garage. Audrey was here, had a bunch of people. It was really entertaining. And I'm somebody that can get easily excited. So I'm sure when Audrey was observing me when the Oilers would score, it was pretty fun.
That was nothing. You should see me when I'm home alone. I get really, really angry at the refs mostly. I have to work on that, but that's another story.
Yeah.
It was a great game. Honestly, after Game 3, I was kind of getting discouraged. I didn't want to watch Game 4 of the playoffs. And I was like, I'll watch it. And then they completely turned it around. And their streak was just insane. And Game 7 was a great game. It was everything you want out of a Stanley Cup Final. It had us on our toes. It was just exciting. Even though they didn't come out with the win, a pretty good game anyways.
Yeah, for sure. And the thing too, like for me and Audrey, like on the Friday night at Game 6, had a great time. I think I went to bed at around 4 a.m. by the time I passed out. Well, had to work the next day.
Yeah, I went to bed, it was probably 2:30. Oh. By the time I fell asleep, I was on the road at 7:30 the next morning, heading back to work. I can tell you that coffee tasted good when I got home. I really needed that caffeine. But we pushed through it and then started all over the next night. Yeah,
because again, that's the thing in the Realtors, right? We're 24/7. Well, not necessarily 24/7, but we work pretty much 7 days a week. So, we have our clientele. People want to go see houses. People want to have their houses put up for sale. But at the same time, we do have our personal lives, but we try to work, we have to mix it in there. So it's like, okay, Game 6 on a Friday night, we'll watch it. But Saturday, it's back to work and get her done, right?
We make it work no matter what.
So again, big congratulations, first of all, to the Panthers for winning the Stanley Cup. For them, it's a franchise that's been around for 30 years. So it was still kind of cool for them to watch it. Like for me, out of the Panthers organization, the person I was probably the most excited for was Bobby Lou, Roberto Luongo. Yeah. He played there for many years as a goaltender, never won the cup, one of the best goalies that ever played the game. So it was nice to see him, even though it's on the managerial positions now, he's going to get his name engraved on the cup. And, for the Canadian team, the Oilers, obviously pro sports, man. Somebody's got to win, somebody's got to lose. But seeing McJesus to do what he did and still coming out with the MVP, I'm sure for him, he's not going to care maybe too much about it because he didn't get the ultimate goal.
He had just lost the ultimate goal. I don't know what was going on with his skates during that game, but someone messed up his blades.
Oh yeah,
Game 7. Oh geez, he was always tripping over his own skates. I was like, who did your skates, man?
So the other thing too is, congratulations to them. And now for us today, and I'm sure everybody's maybe noticed I'm consuming some adult beverages as we're going along here. So I'm kind of starting a little bit of my vacation there. I'm leaving for Toronto on Thursday as we're filming this for Wednesday. So we actually have like a staff party this afternoon there. So we're filming this. It's almost lunchtime. But I'm like, you know what? Let's get the party started. As Audrey knows, realtors, we like to have a good time. And this will be like our first time. Like we have our boss coming down from Sudbury. We're going to one of our coworkers' cottage in the Folky area.
And Jeremy from Remax is coming as well.
Yeah, from corporate head office, he's coming down. So it should be a pretty interesting shindig for sure.
We'll have a fun time, that's for sure. Yeah, so I drove up from Hearst. I'm going to pick up Remi, so he's drinking while I have to drive another, 35 minutes to the cottage. Mm-hmm. But you can bet your bottom I'm going to be drinking when I get there, and I'm going to be sleeping there.
And that's the thing, right? Yeah, we know how to have a good time, but we are responsible at the same time, right? So that'll be fun. Now, as for me, tomorrow again, I got to start. I'm picking up my nephew and his buddy. We're heading down to Toronto for the weekend. Going to go spend Friday at Wonderland. Saturday morning, I'm still trying to figure out how I'm going to do with this. We're going to the CN Tower and we're going to do what's called the Edge Walk. So we're going to be, I don't know exactly how high on the CN Tower, but somewhere at the top. And we're going to be outside, harnessed and everything. And you can even like lean over the tower. So my nephew is really very excited to do it. His buddy's going to join him with that. Should be lots of fun. I don't know how I'm going to do, but at the same time, at first I was like, I'm not going to do it.
No, you can't pass up the chance to do it. You have to do it.
And then I'm like, I can't let two 14-year-old boys go and do that. And I'm just the uncle standing in the background saying, oh, no, I can't do it. Now, I might not be as brave as them and I might not go as far as them, but I am going to try to at least put my 2 feet harnessed safely on the edge walk and see how I do from there. And after that, in the afternoon, we're going to go see a Blue Jays game. We have other few things planned out, but it'll be cool. And, again, being in the real estate, I might get some phone calls from some buyers that want to put in some offers. And as I always say that, that's a little bit part of the job. Like one thing is for sure is I can't physically go show houses. I can't physically go and list a house. But, if I get a call from a client that I've already maybe previously showed a house, they want to put an offer in. It's one of those downtimes while we're in the Toronto area. I might tell my nephew and his buddy, hey, my dog's got to, go write up an offer. And the way I kind of see it too is if I do end up making a sale while I'm there, if that happens, it kind of helps pay for the trip. That's the way I kind of look at it.
Free vacay.
Yeah. That's usually the mentality that most realtors have when they have to do a deal while they're on vacation. So it kind of helps for that. Then come back. We're going to stay in North Bay one night. On our way back, maybe do a little bit of fishing. I told the boys to bring their fishing rods. Go on the beach or something. We'll figure that out, and then be back for Canada Day in the Moonbeam area there. So it'll be a short, fast, but fun. Like very, very packed. I even have some stuff on the side there, but I don't know if we'll be able to do everything.
Did you reach out to Tim? You're going to go fishing
I reached out to Tim. So yeah, we actually have one of our coworkers. He lives in the North Bay area, and I reached out to him. He's got a nice big boat. I was hoping that maybe we could have brought out the boys on the Lake Nipissing, but Tim's going to be out of town that day, so it's not going to work out. But hopefully in the future, I will be able to go experience that, the Tim's big boat there. That'd be a fun day for sure.
Yeah, because speaking of North Bay, I don't think we mentioned this last podcast, but our brokerage just acquired a new team in North Bay, a new whole brokerage. So we're expanding. So if you need an agent in North Bay, reach out to us. We'll find somebody for you.
Yeah. And again, that goes to our fantastic team and our leadership of Marissa being able to, like, again, when I joined the team, we were part of Remax Aim North Realty, and Marissa had purchased that business about 2 years ago. Now she's expanding. Now she's moved to the North Bay area. So the team just getting bigger. But the other thing too is that we have the leadership, not just with Marissa, but the management, like from top to bottom, great team. And you can see why also other businesses are selling to Marissa, because they know of what they can provide. The services that we have with our team is phenomenal. But yeah, coming back from North Bay, hope to one day go on Tim's boat there. If that happens, that'd be great. It would have been fun for the boys, but want to be back in the Cap Moonbeam area to do the fireworks at night there. So that'll be fun. So that's pretty much my vacation there. But I think what we'll do now is we'll kind of get a little bit more into the real estate stuff. Usually the way we've been doing these podcasts is we've each one of us have been kind of talking about one of our properties that we have for sale. We kind of wanted to start this podcast a little bit differently, talk about the introduction with Julien to our team, and also we wanted to talk a little bit about the Stanley Cup, and since we're big hockey people, but now we'll kind of move a little bit more to the real estate side. So what we'll do is I'll pass it on to Audrey, and she's going to start with her property of the month.
So this week's featured listing, Remi, is 17 Park Avenue. 17 Park Avenue is an exquisite lakefront home. It sits on a 4-acre lot. It's the biggest lot there is on that lake. It has 263 feet of lake frontage. It's on Lac Sainte-Thérèse in Hearst. Lac Sainte-Thérèse is a part of a chain of lakes. So from that lake, you can easily access Piva-Bisca Lake, which has a marina on it, Hanlon Lake, and Wolverine Lake. All great fishing spots. There's fishing tournaments that happen every year now. The property itself has a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom house. It has 22,083 square feet of living space. It has 2 living rooms. One living room overlooks the lake, and it's west facing. So amazing sunset views every night. And then you have 2 decent sized bedrooms. The other living room has cathedral ceilings, a wood fireplace. It's just the perfect place to just lay down, watch a movie, have family and friends over. And then you have a custom kitchen, built-in appliances, a big range hood. It's just an amazing kitchen. Like any chef would just love to be cooking in there. And outside the property, you have 4 garages. They're all heated and insulated. They're all brand new, almost built in the last 10 years or less. One of the garages could be turned into like a bunkie. So for friends and family, have more space to have them over. You have a dock and a patio overlooking the lake. It's just a beautiful property, and it has easy access to the OFSC ski trails in the winter. So it's just amazing, really.
Yeah, and I actually remember when you were listing that property, one thing that was really interesting that you mentioned, and I believe I have the right property, is this the one that has like a very like Italian-specific heating system that's unseen anywhere else? Is this the one?
It's very European, yes. So you have Italian, and you're probably thinking about the wood pizza oven.
Oh, okay.
But it's a very high-end heating system. It was shipped from Germany. It's a wood pellet or wood chip system. Right now, the previous owner was running it off of his own wood from his land, but you could always buy like wood chips or wood pellets from a local mill.
Yeah.
And it's one big system for the 4 garages and the house. It's all forced air. It's actually pretty impressive. And if you want to check out that property, we have great pictures. Thanks to Julien again. He did amazing pictures of the place.
Yeah.
I really cannot complain.
Yeah, well, that's it, right? That's why we have a guy like Julien, part of our team, to help us look better, that's for sure, and make our product even that much at a higher level, right? So Julien, we thank you for that. For myself, my property that I have, it's 37 Bayview at Remi Lake. It's a year-round home. The thing that I really like about it, very just well-maintained overall. The original portion of the home, which would be the main floor and the basement, that was built in between 2001 and 2003. Then they did an addition where they have the attached garage, and on top of that, they have like an ultimate master bedroom with a balcony. That was done around 2007, and that master bedroom also has a very, very prestigious walk-in closet. If you like to store your shoes, this is a shoes paradise for sure. They also have the ensuite bathroom with the jetted tub. Main floor, the thing I like about where the main floor is with your kitchen, dining area, and living room, lots of windows to really get the natural sunlight to come in and have that picturesque view of the lake. There's the basement also with it where they have a 3rd bedroom. And once you're on the outside at the waterfront, they have a beautiful gazebo that was just built. They have the hot tub, the landscaping, the greenery up there is beautiful. Nice dock where, it's a great spot for you to go and swim. They even have like little steps to go right down to the beach area. They have a nice detached built garage that was done about in 2012. They also have like a dome storage. So it's just a phenomenal property in a great location. It's listed right now for $849,000, an executive home on the lake on Remi Lake. And again, to Remi Lake on the winter, very fantastic for, skidooing. Great fishing, very active lake in the summertime. The other thing too is the property kind of faces more the south on the lake, and it's surrounded by trees, so you don't get that north wind, which is really nice, So yeah, just a great property.
Is it a big lot or?
Yeah, actually the lot is about 0.84 acres. So, it's over 3/4 of an acre. So really good size.
Yeah, that's bigger than average.
Yeah, and there's like one side of the properties, there's a good, probably 30 or 40 feet of trees before you get to the next neighbor. The one side, there's just like a strip of trees there, but it's very bright, and it's all nice cottages in that area too.
Yeah, Remi Lake, I think it's just a hot spot, right?
Yeah.
I feel like properties where don't sit that long on the market when they're on Remi Lake.
Yeah, like Remi Lake for sure in our general area, and Moonbeam too. Like I always promote Moonbeam as like the best recreational community in Northern Ontario, to my opinion. Somebody can debate me on that. But I just think it's phenomenal because of everything they have to offer, right? Like, especially, like, they have the golf course, the ski trails, the ski hill with the nature trails, the fishing, they got Twin Lakes, they got the Provincial Park, they got all kinds of different campsites. It's phenomenal. It's a great community. And that's why usually we call, for everybody that lives in Kapuskasing, we kind of call Moonbeam like our little sister, just because everybody's tied down to the lake in some kind of a way. So, yeah. So that's the property I have there, 37 Bayview on Remi Lake.
It sounds beautiful. You should check it out.
So now the other thing that we wanted to talk about is what we're kind of seeing in the market. And the big thing is a big change that I've seen over the years, a transition from when we had the COVID era to where we are now, is kind of who has the upper hand as a buyer right now. Obviously, during the COVID era, the big thing that you would see is you had a lot of people over, let's say, from the GTA area. They would list their house for $800,000. They would sell it for $1.2 million. Come up to Kapuskasing, a house was listed for, let's say, $200,000. They'd put an offer in at $230,000, cash deal, no conditions, $30,000 over asking, done deal. Unless you would be somebody in a different position, unless you were in the GTA where you could actually do that. A lot of the local buyers didn't have that many opportunities. And I know it was really frustrating for a lot of the local buyers. The one thing that I am seeing right now is the ones that I would say that have the most opportunity, because we don't necessarily have those GTA buyers anymore. It's the first time home buyers, because a lot of the listings that I'm doing right now, I would say most of the buyers, or a lot of them, it's somebody, looking for their second or their third house. So basically is when they're putting in an offer, they have to sell their property to be able to purchase. So they don't necessarily have the upper hand in that sense. So who does? First-time home buyers. Right now, if I get somebody that calls me and they're a first-time home buyer and they have their pre-approval in place, I really find they have the best opportunity to buy a house, and it gives them a little bit of leverage too, right? If they have that letter, they could go in, let's say a house that's $200,000. Obviously, if they're going to put in an offer, you would want them to, whatever offer they're putting in, to have at least that minimum pre-approval of the amount they're submitting. So, for example, if they're submitting an offer at $190,000, you want to have that letter that says they're pre-approved at that amount. If they're above that, even great. At least it gives them a little bit more leverage depending on the situations they're in. Because the other thing too, for a first-time home buyer, let's say you're pre-approved. Sometimes I get them and they're pre-approved at $350,000. Doesn't necessarily mean that they want to go buy a house for $350,000
because it's not very realistic. You're living just to pay your house and not pay anything else.
Yeah, because you're capping yourself out, right? If you're using the full amount of what you're pre-approved for, the financial institutions are, they're giving you your max most likely. So, if you're getting, let's say, 350, well, you might still want to stay below the 300s, just to make sure that you have that wiggle room. And, in case of other emergencies, like, you need to buy a new car, something like that. You just don't want to have all your money going, as they like to say, house poor, right? But going back to that, buyer is pre-approved, first-time home buyer comes in, hey, Remi, I want to go in at 190. All right, they go in at 190. We're kind of a little bit more out of the bidding war process. So the sellers, they understand they might have to negotiate a bit. So, maybe it is, buyer comes in at 180. Seller counters at like a 195, buyer counters back at a 190, and the seller ends up accepting, right? And then you go through the normal 2-week process of, making sure you get your financing in place, making sure that your insurance is in place, and you get your home inspection. But you kind of do that 2-week process, which is normal nowadays, and then the house is sold. So I would say the first-time home buyers, they have a really really good advantage in that sense.
Not only that, is they're oftentimes more flexible on closing dates. So if like the seller needs more time before they can move out, then they're a little bit more flexible, where they don't have to be leaving out of their house to move into another. Because sometimes they're living either in an apartment where they can just end their lease 2 months in advance, or at their parents' house. Because that's one thing, is a lot of buyers stay stuck to, okay, how can I make the price the most appealing part of my offer? But price is not the only thing that's negotiated on an offer. Closing time and conditions are negotiated, and a closing date is really important for a lot of people. A lot of people have been in a house for 50 years. They have so much stuff to clear out. And they're like, I need more time than just 30 days to get out of my house. And a first-time home buyer can provide that flexibility that they need.
Yeah. And the other thing that's very common, and I have that actually with a few of my deals right now, is, going back to that, is I do have the buyers where, I have to sell their property, or another realtor has to sell their property for them to be able to purchase the seller's house. So when you're let's say a first-time home buyer, now a realtor will really make sure that, as I like to say, if you're going to kick one buyer out of the deal and bring in another one, you want to make sure that everything is all properly lined up, which is why that pre-approval letter will be extremely important. But, you have that first buyer conditional that they have to sell their property. There's probably let's say a 48-hour escape clause. And just to talk a little bit about that escape clause for those that are not familiar with it, what'll happen is the first buyer, even though they have to sell their house, if the seller ends up accepting a second offer, which we would almost call a backup offer at that time, the first buyer still has precedence. So let's say we put in 48-hour for the escape clause, that first buyer still has the right to try to sell their home. They might already have a buyer lined up, or they might want to take an extremely big risk and just waive their conditions and buy out the house. There's a lot of variables that come with, if they end up waiving the condition. The big one is hopefully they've actually sold their house. They already had a buyer lined up. Sometimes buyers, they do have a house to sell, but they're really, really good financially, where they don't necessarily need to sell it. They just would rather sell it. So once, we come to them with the escape clause, they're like, all right, I'll buy it. And when I sell my house, I sell it. And then there's the ones that just flat out take the huge risk of I really hope I sell it, because then I tell them on closing,
if it's not sold,
you're going to get sued. So
you got to pay.
Yeah. So you need to make sure you have that money. When the first time home buyer comes in, they're in a position where they can actually kick out the first buyer if the first buyer doesn't complete waiving their conditions, and then it falls to that buyer. So I just find they have a lot of advantages in that sense right now, because they're not competing against the people we had during the COVID era, which were from the Greater Toronto area.
And if we have some first-time home buyers listening, and you've been hearing us say pre-approval for maybe 15 times at this point today, a pre-approval is something that any financial institution can give you. It will give you an idea of what you could qualify for a mortgage. But a pre-approval is not set in concrete. It's something that they don't pull your credit check for. So it's important to have that, because it lets you know how much you can afford. Because sometimes you'll see, and I see this a lot lately on TikTok, is I'll see TikToks of people saying, oh, if you make this much a year, you can afford a house that's worth this much. So if you make $100K a year, you can afford a $350K home, which is so biased, and it's really a case-by-case scenario. So don't rely on TikTok and Facebook to tell you how much you can buy a house for. Go see someone that knows what they're doing. They'll give you that pre-approval, and then reach out to us, and then we'll go see houses that are within your price range. And once you have that pre-approval, don't go making a lot of purchases. That's one of my biggest piece of advice for any first-time buyer is, if you got pre-approved for $300,000, don't go buy a car that's worth $120,000, because that will greatly affect your pre-approval. Whether it's just a pre-approval you have, or you have an accepted offer and then you get approved for financing, and then you're like, oh yay, okay, I'm approved, I can go buy a car now. Don't go buy a car until your mortgage is onto your name and you have the loan in your bank account, because that can really, really make a big difference.
Yeah, I've heard of those types of stories where as soon as they get their mortgage approval or something like that, they go and spend the money, and then it hasn't happened to me, but I've heard it happen to other people there through the industry.
I had one client I was really scared about, because they were approved, and then a month before closing, he bought a truck. And then a week later, I get a call from the bank saying, okay, we ran the final check for the mortgage loan, and the numbers don't work. And I'm like, what do you mean the numbers don't work? He's like, well, they were okay approved without the appraisal, because their pre-approval was great enough. But now because he bought the car, like their indebtment ratio is too high. We need to appraise the house to make sure that we're not going to lose money if they can't pay. I was like, oh my God. I was like, yeah, just appraise the house. Like, I'm not worried about the appraisal not coming through, but that could have ended very badly. Like, we closed, everything was okay, they're in their house, but that could have been a very different scenario.
Sometimes I'll be showing a house to a first-time home buyer, and we're gonna vet our buyers, right? And we don't do it because we're not trying to push you aside in any kind of way, but we also have a responsibility as realtors to make sure that you are in a position that you can buy a house. And even if it's not a first-time home buyer, it could be somebody that's on their third house, and all that.
You still need a pre-approval at that point. You never know.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too is, like, for example, right? Selling a house, yes, for me and Audrey, it's business, but it's, not just buyers, but the sellers. It can be an emotional roller coaster, right? So, and I've seen it happen where, you have the sellers, you bring them an offer, they accept the offer, and, you're hoping, that everything's going to go through smoothly and all that. And then you end up learning that for whatever reason, the buyer was never going to get a loan in the first place. Like, it was just never going to happen. And, maybe the liar lied to a certain degree to the people they were talking with. There's certain variables that go in. But then you got to go back to the seller and be like, yeah, sorry, this was a waste of everybody's time. And, so it's a very emotional roller coaster for the sellers, even the agents involved. We got to go show the houses. We got to write the offers. We got to negotiate. We got to present, just to be like, thanks for absolutely nothing.
And we're always the bearer of bad news when that happens, right?
Yeah.
Like, we're there to deliver the bad news, and then we get the horrible reaction that comes with it most of the time. And yeah, for us, when we're going to be selfish a little bit, where we put a lot of time and effort for you, and then you weren't truthful, or sometimes it's really something out of your control. But if it doesn't happen, it's time that we're not going to get back, and we're not going to be compensated for.
So yeah, it's just very important for any buyers. I always say, like, go meet with your bank, right? Financial institution, a mortgage broker, whoever it is, get those ducks lined up before you even go see a house. Now, I understand sometimes there's a house that you weren't predicting that comes on the market and you really need to go see it right away. But if you are contemplating about buying a house, doesn't matter at what stage you are in life and how many houses you bought, it'd be a good idea to, before you start calling a realtor to go see some houses, kind of get lined up. And as soon as you meet the realtor, you can even like, hey, here's my pre-approval. Oh my God. Like, it'll save us so much trouble. And
anything you share with us, we're not going to share with anybody. Just let us know so we can help you. But that kind of brings us to my next point I wanted to talk about, is the market. Luckily for buyers right now, even if there's that surprise house that they want to see and they haven't got that pre-approval, they're not at a disadvantage right now in the market, because it's such a buyer's market right now. It is insane. Like, for me, I'm just firing out listings. I'm only getting calls about, oh, can you list my house? And I was hoping that with the interest rates that dropped earlier this month, that it would make a difference, that buyers would start buying again. And unfortunately, it didn't. I didn't see any change on my end.
Yeah, me neither. Yeah, so it's, at least on a positive note, the interest rates are not going up. Now they're on the trend where they're going to go down, hopefully continue going down. And I understand the government too wanting to do it at a slow pace. But yeah, because, when that first nick of the market going down, we were all curious to see, like, would it affect it in any way? For our general area, I haven't seen any changes either. It's still, I would call it a buyer's market. Lots of inventory on the market with still a high interest rate, fewer buyers. So it's definitely a buyer's market where they can pick and choose, right? If there's a house they're trying to negotiate and it's not going to the buyer's advantage, like, that's a big thing for the buyers right now is, all right, you don't want to give me my price, I'm going to go see the next person, right?
And for sellers, I mean, a buyer's market, it can be scary, but it doesn't mean that you should hold off on selling if you want to sell. It's just really important that when you're selling in a buyer's market, that you're listening to your agent, that you're pricing the property accordingly, and that you're really putting effort into, like, keeping the house clean, landscaping, good pictures. So it's really all about how you approach your listing. If you're just going to be like, oh, just take like 2-3 pictures, and I want to get like $350 for a house that your realtor says is worth $300, then you might be sitting on market longer than you would like. So it's really important on a buyer's market to really listen to your agent and really take in their advice. Because that's why we're here.
But yeah, I would say right now, like, the majority of the buyers, depending on their position, they do have the upper hand compared to the sellers as we're speaking right now, because we always know in real estate every week is a different week.
Yeah, the next announcement for the interest rates is not until July 24th. So or at least another month of it's going to be, I think the market's going to stay kind of stable where it is. Hopefully it's going to drop again on July 24th, and then maybe people are actually going to get enticed to buy. What I say to people is if you're waiting for the interest rates to drop, but you're willing to buy within the next 4 or 5 months, you can look and just have a longer closing, which lets you play around with that interest rate on your mortgage, because if you're closing further down and they drop, you can get a better interest rate. So I said, don't really wait on that. Don't just sit idle, because you might lose your chance at a house you really, really like. But just maybe try to, if the seller's okay with it, try to negotiate longer closing.
Over the last few months, we were kind of seeing like, okay, going from the seller's market to maybe like in the middle. And now it's like, I would say it's definitely a buyer's market now.
Definitely. And I mean, buyers, I think an agent's services for a buyer are not as well known as for a seller. I think it's pretty self-explanatory when you're a seller. Okay, I'm buying an agent. They're going to do pictures. They're going to do showings. They're going to sell the house. As a buyer, I get that question a lot actually, is what can you do for me? And they're actually surprised by the amount of stuff I can do for them, where we can help you. We'll do the search. Like we'll filter through the 50 listings there's on the market to find like the 5 that could interest you. We'll look at the house with you. We'll provide advice saying like, hey, this is something that could be a potential issue. We should probably get a home inspection done. And we provide you knowledge that you probably don't have unless you've bought 10 houses in your life.
Yeah. And like you're saying, right, when you do have that experienced buyer, most of them, they'll just go in and, you'll give them your recommendations, but they already know going in if they're buying the house or not. They're just looking for those extra maybe problems that were not identified, that you don't see in pictures or videos, yeah. Right? And you cannot beat going to see a house in person. I hate selling houses to people that don't see them in person. I'll do it, but at the end of the day, it's like saying I want to buy a car and you don't test drive it. Like, no, go for a test drive. Make sure it's not. Hope it wasn't a lemon.
For now, I'm okay. We'll see.
Okay.
We'll see in a few years.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I understand what you mean. But I approach showings for me as just a confirmation of what you saw. So, because I try to take as many pictures and do the best view I can of a property, so that someone comes in, they're like, okay, yes, this is what I saw. You don't want someone walking into a house saying, this is nothing like the pictures. I don't want this house. Yeah.
Yeah. And to finish on the notes for the buyers, I would just say, you do have the upper hand right now. So if you are going to put in an offer, you can always put in an offer. I wouldn't say put in something that's going to insult the seller to the point where you're going to lose the deal. But, you do have the upper hand to negotiate. So if you want to go in full asking, that's up to you. But anticipate, if you're not competing against anybody, negotiate the deal.
That's something we should actually maybe touch on more in detail on another podcast, is the different types of values to a home.
Yeah.
Because there's like the subjective value, the buyer's value. And I think that's something we can maybe go into another time.
For sure. Another thing I wanted to talk about too is, kind of like the last few months that we've had, because we've went through the prime time of real estate, which usually starts like I'd say around the first week of April, end of March, first week of April. That's when it really starts going. And then usually I tell people, like, for me, it's beginning of April all the way to the end of June. That's when it's really...
And you know what? For me, it's mostly like mid-May to July.
Yeah. So it's a little different, I guess, for certain real. Me, it's always that time period. I hit April 1st there. I'm always
Everyone's talking in April. Every agent I know, I'm so busy. And I'm just like, I'm not. What's wrong? But it's just because we're just a little behind. It's okay.
But yeah, so the thing that's nice now is I'd say about the last week and a half, I've had a little bit more breathing room. Like I wasn't doing I don't know if I was doing 100 hours a week, but I was doing crazy hours like for almost 3 months, at least 2.5 months straight. And like I said, the last week and a half there, it's been like, I don't have to start till like 8:39 in the morning, and sometimes I'll have some break periods in between. I can maybe go do my CDU or go for a little walk.
You were going steady, like 3 listings a week, like.
Oh yeah.
Always busy.
Yeah. Well, I'd have to relook this stat, but I remember I looked at something where I think in like 70 days. Now, some of these listings they were like relistings. They had expired maybe before I relisted them, but I'd say there was at least probably 35 that were new. In the 70 days, I was up to 42, but like I said, there was a few of them that were relistings. So like in 70 days, I had like 42 new listings to my name. Well, I'd say around for sure 35. So it's basically like a listing every second day. And that's besides showing houses, other houses, going pricing other houses, writing offers, just doing everything else, and taking phone calls, answering emails. So there was that 1 week not long ago where I know there was at least 4 nights where I went to bed past 2 in the morning. And then I was up at 7 in the morning working again. And then I remember on that same Sunday, because I was starting the next week, I'm like, I cannot start my Monday until I have a certain amount of work completed. I still didn't get everything done, but like I said, I need to have like a good chunk of it done. And I remember it was like 3:30 in the morning when I called it quits before waking up on the Monday morning and starting again.
I'm kind of getting into that point now. Like I'm finding out a lot of new listings. I have really busy weeks. I'm not going to bed at 2 in the morning yet. Hopefully I don't get to that point. I mean, I'll be happy to be busy. Just saying I could never function going to bed at 2 in the morning. That's just me. But yeah, so I'm starting to be busy while you're starting to slow down, which is just normal. It was the same thing last year. It's a lot of new listings, however. I'm not getting that many showings and buyers yet. I'm hoping it's going to pick up, however.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? You build up inventory. So me, like obviously I've built up a lot of inventory in the last couple of months. I would say like overall I've been listing more than I've been selling because again, it's going back to that buyer's market. But I am moving my inventory. And that's the thing. I remember when I started as a realtor and I was taking my courses, they said, if you want to survive in real estate, you have to list, right? Because a lot of people, they'll still call the listing agent.
Yes.
They'll see your name out there and all that. And you're going to get phone calls from people you don't even know of just because they saw your listings out there. They'll go on realtor.ca or they'll see your sign and they're like, oh my God, this guy's got 3 or 4 signs everywhere.
Or a friend of a friend. And
yeah. So you got to, that's the big thing. So now I have that inventory, but at the same time, I want to move. It's all nice to have a lot of listings, but you know, like if you don't sell them, you know, you're not really doing your job at the end of the day.
And having this many listings to our names, like we've really been working at making them more appealing. Like I was saying, when you're in a buyer's market, you have to have something more to bring those few buyers to your listing. And we've been doing a lot of videos. You a lot more drone than me, but we're doing a lot more videos, listing videos, which were something that we're not really getting done like last year.
Oh yeah.
I think we're really tapping into that. Everywhere else they were already doing it, but not up here.
Yeah. I think my first like official video was probably like in March.
Yeah, I think that's about when we started talking about it and doing those.
Yeah. And once we started doing them, we didn't stop because we really saw the advantage to them.
A lot of sellers that call me now, they're like, well, I really like your videos. I like that. It's just fun. I want you to do that. So
yeah,
it's definitely starting to be a selling point.
Yeah, definitely on a marketing perspective, it's kind of bringing us to that next level. And again, too, like we're still new to this, like compared to our friend Julien that's been doing videos for years. And again, we still need his services for certain things time tonight. And like example today doing this, I would never be able to manage what we're doing at the moment. But you know, for example, you bringing Julien to do that listing you were talking about, right?
A high-end listing like that's $1.3 million. I would not do it justice with my iPhone and my technology, but yeah. I mean, for an average house, I do it on my own and people really like them still, but definitely not for a luxury listing. I needed a professional.
Yeah. But yeah, so the videos are really helping us, bringing us to that next level. I know there's other things that we're going to want to work on later on, but we're in that time of the year. Like I've kind of built my template now.
Yeah.
For at least the busy season. Like I'm doing my videos now, like the way I'm putting in my rating, it's all the same, like the same style. I'm doing all like my color adjustments in my video, all the same. Same thing for my pictures too. I'm adjusting them all the same way. Like I kind of have like my template set. When I'm going to get again into the slow season, that's when I'm maybe going to try to improve. And I see the big thing that me and Audrey are doing too is like, we're looking outside of the Cap and Hearst area. Like we're looking at what realtors are doing in Toronto. We're looking at what realtors are doing in Ottawa. We're looking at what realtors are doing like the Sudbury area. Sometimes they do like little fun joke videos and stuff. It's something that I'd like to do. Yeah. Just haven't had the time to really do that yet.
Yeah, like day in the life or follow me around. Like those are things that I would love to do, but it's just more things added to my to-do list. So right now it's just not really possible. Mm-hmm. But I do want to get into that because as much as I love the job, I want to have something that's kind of fun and just entertaining. And that's just, for me, it's interesting. I like learning new programs. And you know, because you're just pulling off of my knowledge of me playing around with 1,000 different apps.
Makes my job easier.
Yeah. I'll have to update you on some of those, though.
Yeah.
I definitely, see, that's one thing I do is I just look around. I try to learn new stuff and just find new ways to do it.
And, you know, I always see myself as... maybe not the most tech person savvy, but I'm always willing to listen and I'm always willing to learn. And I do love to see.
I'd say for someone as old as you're doing fine.
Thank you. But yeah, no, I'm always looking out what's, I don't just try to do the same thing constantly, right? Like I said, I did a lot of changes over the winter. I spent a lot of time saying like, what am I going to do in 2024 to improve myself? I could have just sat back and said, you know what, I'm going to do the same thing as I've done before. And I'm sure I would have been fine.
It was working anyways.
Yeah. But I just felt I didn't want to look in 5 years, as I've told you a few times, and feel that I'm behind on everything.
So like a dinosaur.
So because I gotta keep up, even if I'm a little bit more behind. As long as I try to keep up every time, I won't be at that point where I'm like completely gone behind.
But I wouldn't say you're behind. I think that we're setting a new standard in the industry right now for Hearst and Cap by doing these additional things that we're not really getting done in the past.
Yeah.
So I don't think you're behind. I think you're the trendsetter.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and it's fun too. Like now that I'm a little bit more comfortable, like at first, I gotta say, like using a program like CapCut, when I first started using it, like it took me a bit of time, and I had some meetings with Daniela. She's like our marketing director at our firm in Sudbury, and she would give me an hour through Zoom just to kind of like show me the basics, like what are the meat and potatoes that I need to do my videos. Again, I know it's maybe not a complex app and such, but it helps me do what I need to do.
It's not complex, but it does have some higher features than just like a simple app. But you know what? We're not pros, but we're trying. We're doing it.
But and what I'm getting to that is that before I, let's say, learn how to use a program like CapCut, I would try to learn before. And now that's the other thing with having the team that we have the resources where if we have a question and we want to learn something, we can go to somebody outside of just being an agent, like we have Daniela. We can go to experts in those fields to be like, how do I improve this? But the thing I saw with CapCut is before I felt like the programs that I would use, I don't know if it was me that was too afraid or I felt they were too complex, but that's why I never really got into videos. Now that I'm doing it, I'm like, wow, now that I know how to do it, and I'm sure that these apps have improved over the years, I find they're user-friendly. That's
why I like CapCut. It is user-friendly. And I mean, for TikTok, they also have like just templates that you just import your videos to. Mm-hmm. And it makes great results, but it's user-friendly and it's pretty simple.
Yeah.
So I like CapCut as well. That's one of the apps I use. I kind of go back and forth between that and it's a new one, WeVideo, similar to CapCut, but I don't know. Some features I like more than CapCut, so it depends on the day how I feel. Yeah.
I'm still working on Canva. I'm way behind on Canva.
I love Canva.
Yeah. Michelle was telling me, Michelle Moore, another one of our agents, she loves it. Like
I'm the one that got her onto it.
She put I haven't seen it there. Like she showed me a picture of it, but I haven't seen it on the baseball field. But apparently on the baseball field, she's got like this big bullseye, but like with the Remax colors.
I designed it with her when we were in Mississauga.
Oh yeah.
Canva, sponsor me, please. I love Canva.
Don't sponsor me yet. I'm not there yet.
He's just riding along on my
Grey Goose can sponsor me though. If Grey Goose wants to sponsor me, that'd be 100% all in.
Yeah, Grey Goose, you'd be losing money if you sponsor him. Sorry.
And actually, the other app I wanted to talk about, and you're the one that introduced me to that one also, is Metricool. Yes. I like The only thing I would say, well, actually, I'll talk about the positive stuff, and then I'll say the one thing I don't like about it. But the thing that's cool about it is it's very time saving in the sense that I did it this morning. I put out a video. I put it on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook all at once. So it's very helpful for that.
It just simplifies everything, and that I didn't find that on my own. I can't take the credit. I have a friend in London, Taylor, if you're listening to this, hi. She does marketing for a living. She has a marketing agency, and she had done a post of all the apps she uses. And I'm like, I'm just going to use your recommendations. And Metricool, I just fell in love right away with it. It's easy, simple to use. You can use it on your phone or your laptop, and you're just scheduling all your posts. And what I do now is I do my social media. So the stuff that's pre-done, not like my listings, I prepare it at the beginning of the month, and then I schedule it through Metricool for the entire month, and it's done. It's taken care of. I don't have to think about it, but I know that my social media presence is going to stay stable and keep growing while I'm not thinking about it. It takes me, 2.5 hours at the beginning of the month, and then it's done.
So for me, the one thing I don't like, and again, I know with social media posts, if you keep, and even Julien talked to me about that, about a video I did the other day, like Remi, when you're putting it on social media, let's say like TikTok or something, maybe put like a shorter version. And that stuff I want to do.
CapCut does it for you. I'm going to teach you that. Oh. So you can create new shorts on CapCut for TikTok and all that stuff.
Oh.
the like full videos.
Oh, there you go.
So it simplifies it.
Yeah. See what happens when you have a conversation sometimes. So yeah, you're gonna have to show me how to do that.
That's what I do. I do that.
Yeah, because right now I'm doing like my full blown videos that are 3 minutes to 5 minutes depending what they are, and then after that, like it's already time consuming enough that I put them out there, right? But I do want to learn. Again, this is the stuff that I wanted to do more in the down season. Like, how do I make shorter videos that are more attractive? Just really showing the highlights of the property for the short videos. I don't know, maybe 30 seconds, 45 seconds. But the one thing that I don't like with Metricool is, and it's maybe because of these other social media sites, is like on Facebook, you can have, like a long story. I'm all about, I'm the type of person that when I put out my content, I like everything to be there.
I'll show you how to fix that.
Yeah.
It's because different apps have different limits on how many characters you can put on your description. And if you're editing all three at the same time, they're going to use the shortest one of the three. Mm-hmm. But you can edit by network and then just schedule it at that point.
Okay, I'll see. That's, like I said, that's why I have you. You can show me all these beautiful things, how I can improve myself. But I think that'll be it, at least for talking about. We want to talk about all these cool apps that we're using and that are helping us to make us better realtors. And I'm sure there'll be new apps as we go along. And we can even get into chat. PTG, I forget how you call it.
Chat GPT
at another time, because that's another cool app. But yeah, we just wanted to kind of touch base on all of those. But for me, I think I've covered everything I wanted today, unless there was something else that you wanted to chat about.
I think it was a pretty heavy episode. I think we gave a lot of information, had a lot of chats. I think that's going to be it for today.
Yeah. So you know what we're going to finish with? Who do you pick to pick the Stanley Cup next year? I know I'm throwing you a curveball here.
Me? If I could have my dreams come true, it'd be Toronto. Yeah. But at this point, I've lost all faith.
Yeah.
But if in a perfect world, Toronto would take the cup next year.
Oh, okay. Yeah. You know what? Just because, and again, the Panthers did that last year. They went to the cup, they lost, and they won it this year. And it's so hard to get there back to back. Hopefully, the Oilers can take it again next year. But me, to be honest, as long as any Canadian team.
That's what I was going to say.
Any Canadian team, I don't care who it is.
As long as Canada wins, I'm happy.
Yeah. Because it's been way overdue. Last time was in 1993. Yeah. So we'll finish on that. I'm going to still pick the Oilers for next year on the Canadian side. But could be the Leafs, could be any Canadian team, would be happy. So we'd like to thank you for joining our podcast, and we'll join you, and we'll have you join us next time.
If you ever want to reach out to us for anything real estate, for Hearst, my info is below in the description, and for Kapuskasing, Remi's info is also below in the description.
Have a great day.